Welcome to another episode of Red and Black, where your conservatism is not just the color that you're used to. I'm Lenny McAllister, and I'm going to be one of the hosts here for the next hour, talking about rigorous debate and issues that we're going to argue back and forth with and respect each other. And if we don't agree with each other, we will promise not to follow each other into the bathroom. Now, that's a pledge I'm willing to make. I'm hoping that the other three people that are joining me today are willing to make that pledge as well. First of all, I'm going to go to our guest host, Priscilla Rahn, who, if you're from Pittsburgh, it's Rahn. But I'm going to say hi to her, and I'm going to say, will you at least take the pledge here on Red and Black today to debate with earnest, with rigor, with truth, and with justice, and with a self-restraint that will cause you to not follow somebody into the bathroom if they disagree with you?
So help me God, I promise to do all of the above with earnest and rigor.
Earnest and rigor is key. If she didn't say earnest and rigor, you knew she was lying. Jeff, I'm going to put you on the spot because I can at least trust her. She has a trustworthy face. You in those glasses, I don't know. So, will you be willing to take the same pledge and promise not to follow me or any other person on Red and Black this week into a bathroom if we happen to disagree with you during the course of this show?
Not only will I agree to that.
See, Jeff with a straight face. He could not make the pledge with a straight face. So I'm going to go ask Dr. Metzler because you see, Jeff, you know, the devil's a liar. The devil's a liar. That's the equivalent of being struck down by lightning on the internet on Red and Black. You start telling something that you know you can't keep doing. Boom.
There you go.
Dr. Metzler, I'm going to ask you while Jeff comes in as he's rehearsing. No, hold on. You hold your lie. See what ended up happening to you? You couldn't even with a straight face say that you keep the pledge. And you saw what God did because God don't like ugly.
No, you cut me off because you didn't want to hear what I had to say. Don't be trying to front. Not only do I agree to it, I will earnestly and with rigor swear that if anybody tries to follow me into the bathroom because they don't want to hear what I have to say or they don't agree with me, I might, channel my inner R. Kelly.
You're going to the Dave Chappelle routine, are you not?
I just got done watching his special, actually, but he didn't talk about R. Kelly.
Yeah, see that's where you're going. So I think we have two pledges. I think, Dr. Metzler, who I have a wittiness to say, but I'm gonna keep it for now because I just want to make sure you'll take the pledge because I need you to.
Yeah, I will take the pledge. And let me just say, of course, I'll take the pledge. And as it relates to the follow someone into the bathroom thing, I'm not Don Lemon, who at the W Chicago followed someone into the bathroom. So we'll leave it there.
You know, there are some Republican former U.S. senators that don't want to talk about following people in the bathroom stalls either.
Yeah,
so we don't even go into that. Did I outdate the other two down at the bottom, or is everybody following along? Does everybody know?
Saying, I mean, I have a wide stance too, but it ain't that wide.
It's always good to throw some institutional, pop culture knowledge to let people know that we've been involved in this game a little longer than, 15 minutes ago and claim to be lifelong conservatives. I digress. Yeah, exactly. I digress. Drink your wine. Oh, by the way, Priscilla, if you hear me say I digress, you're allowed to drink wine on this show. Do you have wine there?
You don't know what's in this cup, and I do have a story. Because in high school, I had a teacher who was always very, very calm and relaxed. And she always had a thermos. But, you would think there was coffee in the thermos. But she was always very calm and relaxed and just a little bit loopy and off. And so we thought there might be something other than coffee in her flask. So it's
wait, what'd you think was going to be in a flask? Look. This is
why her thermos. Did I say flask? I meant her thermos. That we didn't. She always had a thermos, and she always poured, into her little thermos cup. But we didn't know what was in the thermos.
Wait a minute. Did you hear what she just said? She's comparing a thermos to a flask. Jeff.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, what's the difference? I mean,
yeah, a distinction without a difference.
Be used for certain things, right?
And here's the thing. Yeah, I'm going to call her out. I'm bringing her back on and calling her out before we get into any topics. You say this while you're holding a mug. You're like, well, you know, when my teacher used to drink, she was really calm, and she holds the mug, and then visually we're thinking it's a freaking mug with, you know, peppermint tea, chamomile tea. Then she goes, yeah, we always wondered what was in that flask. Well, I can tell you what it was. It probably had a little bit of a smell to it. She probably walked around, couldn't walk a straight line. She'd be in trouble if there was a DUI checkpoint down the street from the school. That sounded about right.
Well, let me tell you, I've been teaching and been in education for 28 years. And to make it this long, there has to be something other than tea in your cup to make it this long and to be chill.
Okay.
So we're just going to keep it a mystery, and maybe at the end of the show, I will reveal what is in this cup.
Well, first of all, if your eyes get cross-eyed halfway through the show, you will have already revealed what's in that cup. To real topics. Jeff, all I got to say is this. You got to talk to me about why, and you got to make sure that God doesn't strike your internet down again, because we all know that the Lord will. Anyway. When liberals say you got to stand for your truth and stand for your truth, and we believe in freedom, and all that stuff works all fine and good when they're asking conservatives to vote against Donald Trump or vote against some type of Republican policy, because we've heard that a lot over the last 5 to 10 years. Now that Democrats are in control and they have a very narrow window, now they're the very bully tactics that they hate it with Trump and they hate it with conservatives, including everybody from Boehner to Ryan to McConnell. Now they're implementing themselves to try to get Manchin and Sinema to move, including following Sinema into the bathroom. Which, by the way, I think it's interesting, Jeff. Before you answer, they didn't follow the pro-gun Democrat into the bathroom. They followed the woman from Arizona into the bathroom. Maybe there's something to that.
I'm thinking that the problem is that principles have become outdated. It's all about pragmatism. It's all about what works for us right now. They say, yeah, we follow these principles as long as they benefit us. So everybody should be principled as long as your principles line up with what we want. This isn't just Democrats. This is everybody. It seems like even people will even mock the idea of having principles, because you're like, no, we can't have principles because then the other side will win because they have no principles. We have descended into a lot of stupid because of this. Everybody knows that when you're a senator or if you're a member of Congress, your job isn't to just go along with whatever your party is saying. It's to do what you believe your constituents want, except for maybe in some crazy cases. But in general, what state does Kyrsten Sinema represent? Massachusetts? No. She represents Arizona. They do the same thing to Joe Manchin. It's like they want him to support policies that they know will get him voted out. That's not how politics works, y'all. I mean, if you have somebody from a state, from a purplish reddish state, you can't go full AOC. You never go full AOC if you're representing Arizona or West Virginia. So they know all of this, but now they're getting into the pressure tactics. And this is what the hard left does very well. They are very good at trying to destroy you or trying to make your life miserable until you do what they want. And I'm so glad that she's not giving in.
Priscilla, here's the thing that they don't seem to understand. Let's say you crack both Sinema and Manchin, right? And they come up for re-election, and in the areas that they're in between Arizona and West Virginia, they're replaced by Republicans. In the long scheme of things, that doesn't even help the Democrats. It's like, okay, I know you want what you want right now, and I know that you're saying, well, you have to pass it because you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Some of this ended up happening, as we remember, with Obamacare in 2009. But after that, the Democrats lost the House for what, almost 10 years, at least 8 years? And they ended up losing the Senate in 2014. So, congratulations, you got some legislation that you wanted passed, and then you ended up getting a reversal of everything, including the White House and both chambers of Congress by 2016, where people can just reverse it anyway.
I think what we're seeing is that the American people are waking up, and the American people know when they're being played. And what we see is a situation here where there really is a civil war, even within the Democrat Party, when it comes to passing this debt ceiling, which did end up passing and could have passed without Republican participation. So we know that there was a lot of infighting. But what's really sad that I observed is that even Joe Biden basically abandoned her and said, you know what, this is basically what happens when you become an elected official. You kind of, unless you're like protected from the little people, you can expect to be harassed and followed into the bathroom. And while Biden and his administration is attacking parents who are going to school board meetings and getting the DOJ involved and using taxpayer dollars to call parents domestic terrorists, he turns a blind eye and abandons his own congressmen who are being literally harassed and threatened in public places where it's inappropriate. And so you can just see the hypocrisy, and that's just a sign that the left is crumbling. This administration doesn't know its head from its tail, and they create these narratives, but the American people are seeing it because most Americans are in the middle. Most Americans are not far, far right or far, far left. They're just everyday people who are looking at how much it's costing them at the gas pump. They're looking at how much their bread and their milk costs. They're seeing that their kids are coming home depressed or being called racist. And everyday people are having to choose between getting a shot or putting food on the table and investing in their careers. And so we're seeing tyranny at its heightened state. I mean, forget Obama. I mean, forget any other president prior to now. Biden is showing us his true colors and the fact that he's just a poor leader right now. He's not the leader that America needs.
So, Dr. Metzler, one of the things that I'm struggling to understand with all of this playing out is the fact that, you know, the bully narrative seems to have just simply gone away. I mean, they're literally jumping down the throats of some of these individuals, and all the rhetoric that we heard just this time last year, as far as we're going to reunite America and we're going to heal America, that's gone out the door. And it seems as though it's going to end up costing the Democrats this time next year when it comes to elections, if this is the type of rhetoric that continues. Now, you know, by the time that the show airs on Saturday, we will have known the job numbers again. We know that they were disappointing last month. I mean, even if you get some legislation that seems to be groundbreaking passed by a partisan vote, but you don't have the jobs coming back the way you hope they are, where is this all going? I mean, and this is from a domestic standpoint. We won't even go into some of the stuff that they've been going through with Afghanistan and the like over recent days.
Yeah, well, so first, on the job numbers, which are going to come out Friday, there is a decrease. However, that's not the issue. The issue is you don't have the same growth rate that you did. So really, it's a wash on the job numbers. That's number one. Number two, look, as Jeff said earlier, the problem with Democrats is that they are too short-sighted. I've heard some of them say, why doesn't Manchin just become a Republican? And I'm like, are you seriously saying that? Because at that point, you know, you automatically lose control, right? So there is that short-term thing. Also, they're very short-term and very short-sighted is because they believe that because, you know, Sinema and Manchin are not up for re-election next year. So they're figuring they can do whatever they want. So we got till 2024 to do that. So as it relates to the whole issue of unity, like I said before, when they were saying that during the campaign, it was bullshit, and it continues to be the same. So let's not, you know, try to dress it up, and let's not try to pretend that this is a reality. You know, what we've learned, if anything, so far from the Biden administration, if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is this. You know, as you sit there and you look at the whole evolution of evolving on an issue. One of the things that's played out in the media over the last couple of days is they've taken Kristen Sinema's legislative and philosophical history on issues, and they're now trying to use it against her. So they're basically saying, you used to be far left. You used to be part of the Green Party. You used to believe in all these things before, and now you're a moderate Democrat? We don't believe that. You're not allowed to evolve on an issue. You know, if there was one person that evolved famously on an issue that the left really, really, really is for, that this person wasn't there initially in their legislative, beginnings, but quote unquote got there before the end of their career. Do you remember who that was? I will tell you, because you all are sitting there stumped. Barack H. Obama, 44th president of the United States, on gay marriage. Does everybody remember this? Where he had to evolve on the issue before he was there. He wasn't there, but he was there. And therefore, we have to support people evolving on issues. Now, Kristen Sinema, who is a U.S. Senator, one of 100 people, does not have the latitude, Priscilla, to evolve on an issue. And now she's getting hit over the head with stuff that she said 12 years ago. And we're wondering why people don't have trust in politics anymore for people to make common sense.
Well, I think what we see is that the average voter has just a handful of issues that they're passionate about. Some people are one issue voters. And so when I heard those individuals who were yelling and screaming at the senator, saying, you promised this one specific thing, not really truly understanding the role of government and the role of senators and all of the many decisions and all of the many voices that our congressmen have to listen to. When you represent your state, you represent all voices. You cannot represent just one individual voice. And so that's what voters need to understand. When these individuals go to Congress, go to DC, they're getting many, many different calls. They're getting calls from people who have very, very different political views than you do. And so to say you need to vote with your constituents, well, guess what? Everybody in their state is their constituent and they answer to everybody. And so I think that's actually a sign of a good leader, is someone who does evolve and someone who does listen and someone who gets more information, because there's a lot of information flowing very, very rapidly every single day that a congressman has to weigh through and make decisions about that the average voter doesn't know about. And so we have to be very, very thoughtful about how we attack our policymakers.
Jeff, I mean, what I was bringing up was, I'll pose it again. When Barack Obama evolved on the issue of gay marriage, he was celebrated for evolving on that issue. Now, Kristen Sinema is evolving to being a moderate, and she's getting hit over the head with, you used to be part of the Green Party. Well, you voted for Harambe in 2016 and thought it was cute until you got Donald Trump as president. Now, all of a sudden, you didn't think voting for a gorilla in a zoo was a good idea to vote for president. Maybe you evolved on that as well. It seems as though people have these very short memories on how they want their politicians to moderate. Look, by the way, I think we also remember that John Kerry had his presidential campaign sunk in 2004 with certain evolutions of his positions. So it's like, which one is it? Is it good to evolve on issues, or once you say it, it has to always be that way, which goes back to our conversation last week of, hey, cancel culture, if you're not always consistent for the next 50 years of your life, you got to go.
Yeah, that is the thinking of a child. That's how a child thinks. Like, these are not grown-ups that we're talking about here. People change their minds, people change their approaches. I read an article in the New York Times by Michelle Goldberg saying, what's wrong with Kirsten Sinema? And she even acknowledges in the article that Kirsten Sinema wrote a book about why she kind of changed into what she is now. She was very much on the left, and then she realized, I can't get anything done that way. So her book talks about this process that she goes through as to be able to talk to people who disagree with her and find areas of common ground to find bipartisan solutions. And bipartisanship, that's another word that's verboten on both sides. People hate the word bipartisanship nowadays, but that's where she's coming from on this. There are people on the right and on the left who want bipartisanship, but I think a lot of people are pushing back against that because they just want to run roughshod over the other party. They just want to get their agenda through. Kirsten Sinema understands that really you're not going to always get every single thing that you want, even if you have control of Congress or if you have control of the Senate. So she recognizes that people need to work within that instead of just being total purists about everything and thinking that if you're not pushing the agenda that the Democratic Party wants, then you're somehow doing something wrong. No, Kirsten Sinema is doing what she believes her constituents want. And you know what? If she's wrong, she won't be in office much longer.
So let's finish up with you, Dr. Metzler. What's your take finally in regards to where this is going to go with the Democrats? Because at some point in time, they're going to have to realize 50-50 is literally 50-50. And you don't want to lose seats because of something that you're doing now. Pushing people that actually the right respects a little bit is not exactly a good idea to keep your Democratic seats in the House or the Senate safe, because it's still about optics when you're talking about elections in November, whether it's this year or next year, this year local elections, next year statewide and federal elections. So with that said, are they going to learn the lesson? Because this seems to be a lesson that both sides don't get, right? I mean, just put the shoe on the other foot. And I can't believe that Pat Toomey wanted to work with Joe Manchin on gun control. Well, Pat Toomey comes from Pennsylvania, which does have rural areas. Maybe you do something in a bipartisan fashion that's not as bad as what you might have gotten if you have 55 Democrats in the Senate. But what did Toomey go through on that issue, for example? Because he had the audacity to be a moderate Republican on an issue. We see it on both sides.
Well, so here's how I think this is going to end up. It's going to end up it would be like, I don't know, Jesse Smollett is going to trial in November of this year. He will lose, as will the Democrats next year when they are up in November. The fact of the matter is they are learning nothing. This is the worst, most disjointed, off the cart, off the rail administration and supporters that I have ever seen. This is beyond a clown show. They are all clowns. They're showing that they're clowns. Look, the fact
wait a minute, wait. You said it's beyond a clown show. You said they're all clowns and they're showing that they're clowns. That's the definition of a clown show.
No, but I'm not done. Okay. So after you show who you are and everybody realizes who you are, you then go into oblivion. It is called post-clownism. That's what it's called.
You can only do that when you have a JD PhD. I mean, otherwise you can't make terms like that up.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, this is what's gonna. They're toast next year. But the worst part is they're not realizing that since they're gonna be toast, they might want to do some things like, I don't know, confirm some more justices on the federal bench. There are 200 vacancies. I don't know. So there you have it. You might want to do that instead of going after this nonsense. And the Justice Department going after parents at school board meetings. Seriously, Merrick, I know you're mad because you didn't get on the court, but seriously, this is a problem.
That is a great way to make a moderate vote for a Republican when the time is right. And again, some of it's optics, and you got to look. And we talked about this. The definition of freedom has now become subjective based on who's in power and what you want to get done. And that's not how the American Constitution was written. That's not the spirit of Americana. I mean, let's just be honest. That's what's always gotten America in trouble. Look, in 1875, American freedom was freedom for the white man. And well, you know what? That didn't apply to everybody in America. The right to vote for the white man didn't apply to a whole half of the country, and then plus some black folks. So there's always this instance where the subjectivity of freedom gets us in trouble, and it just seems that we're walking back down that path. You seem like you're going to say something, Dr. Metzler.
Yeah, just one more thing. And as it relates to Trump 2024. Here's the thing, Democrats, you are the ones who are fueling his campaign for 2024. I just don't understand. Every other word is about Trump, and the media is, oh, Trump's so bad, this, but you keep talking about him. Okay, so you are his best campaign ads for 2024. I just don't understand how this party, rather than becoming an opposition party, which is what they should be, what they have become, in fact, is a bunch of whiny crybabies who want to sit around and talk about, oh, we're losing the left. We're losing. Enough already. So you have given him, Trump is leader of the opposition in large part thanks to your lunacy. That's what we got.
Well, let me pivot into this. Another thing that seems to be, full of a little bit of lunacy is the whole vaccination mandates that you have with some of these employers. And so, there's pros and cons in this saying, okay, if it's a private business, they can ask their employees to be vaccinated as a condition of employment because it's a private organization, et cetera. Where Sage Steele, who is an ESPN analyst, kind of once again dipped her toes into politics. And once again, I think she may have gotten her foot cut off because she ends up getting suspended by ESPN by talking about the vaccine mandate that they had at ESPN for her to keep her job. And then she kind of threw some shade at Disney saying, well, it's a Disney company, so what do you expect? But it kind of brings up a bigger question, which is number one, from a conservative perspective, can a private organization, just throwing it out there, people that are like, Sage Steele is telling the truth, and there's some people that are against what she said and said she had a right to get suspended. ESPN is still publicly traded, private organization, allowed to make their own workplace environment rules and regulations. It's kind of like the NFL. It's kind of like what you're hearing with Kyrie Irving in the NBA. And Priscilla, I'll go to you first. You're starting to hear about this even in the realm of sports in regards to private organizations having mandates. And then this is where you want to be. This is where you want to be. Seems like a little bit of a socialistic approach in one regard, but at the same time, it's a free market approach. You can go play basketball overseas. You can go get onto another network and get another job. May not make the same amount of money, but these are the rules. What say you?
So I think it's really important that we do protect the rights of private business. We had a situation here in Colorado where we had a cake maker who his case went all the way up to the Supreme Court because he refused to bake a cake for a gay wedding. And so it brings up the question, does a private business have a right to do, make certain decisions that are based on their own religious beliefs or philosophical beliefs? I mean, so that's the situation that we're seeing a lot of private businesses are making in regards to the vaccine. But we have to remember that we still live in America. We still have a constitution, and we still need to protect our freedoms because we know that freedom is extremely fragile. And we are seeing a lot of tyranny taking place in different states where people are having to choose between their jobs and their careers and their retirement and taking a shot or taking an injection of something that for a long time was experimental. Even though the FDA has approved something, we're not exactly sure what they've approved, but they're saying they've approved the same vaccine that everybody's getting. We're seeing the science say that there are other options for people to be healthy. And since when do Americans not have a right to make a choice about their personal health and the treatments that they get in order to be healthy and safe? And so what it's led into is discrimination, resegregation, almost an apartheid that we're seeing. We're literally going backwards in time where people are not even gathering with their own family, and they're rejecting people that have been good to them for many, many years because of a choice that I think is nobody's business.
Jeff, what say you? I mean, it's private industry, it's a private organization, and it's their workplace. but at the same exact time, you're kind of forcing them to take a risk with their body. I mean, there are people that try to make this sound like it's forced abortion, forced sterilization. That seems to be a little too far, but I understand the whole, and it's always ironic when you hear this phrase, my body, my choice. Here we go again with that.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. I mean, the libertarian side of me says, you got to let private business do what it's going to do. We either believe this stuff or we don't. It means if we believe in these principles, it means that we believe them even when we don't like what's being done with them. And, the free market, means that a company is going to be free to do what it wants, but that means it's going to do things that you don't like. And I don't like what a lot of these businesses are doing. And I think that there should be other ways societally to persuade them one way or the other. But a lot of this even depends on where you are, too. I mean, here in Texas, you're not going to have a lot of businesses that are forcing people to get vaccinated. Whereas in a blue state, then Massachusetts, for example, I'm picking on Massachusetts for some reason. I don't know, but they would be more amenable to that type of thing. So this is just one of those issues that the principles are the principles. And as far as the NBA goes, it's hard for me to have a lot of sympathy there because they make so much damn money. I'm like, I don't care. I get it. I get what you're saying. I don't agree with what your company is doing, but you've made a shitload of money and you're going to be fine no matter which way this goes.
Yeah, but that's pretty much I get that, but look, I'm going to hold you accountable to that for just a second. If you make $15 million a year, and in order to continue your ability to make the living that you're used to making, you're going to have to go halfway around the world and play in Israel, let's say, or play in Turkey, let's say, and make 5% of what you would make in the United States because an entity is trying to force you to take a vaccine, my body, my choice.
This is where I'm going to go conservative ink on you. If you've made that much money and the only way you're making that money at this point is playing that game, then you didn't take personal responsibility and do what you were supposed to be doing. If you're making $15 million a year, you should have been invested that in real estate. You should have been invested that in business. You should have been invested that in the stock market. I'm sorry.
That's logical. We're not talking about a logical thing. We're talking about an ideological thing, Dr. Metzler. We're talking about a constitutional, perhaps, issue. We're talking about a philosophical issue, definitely. Whether you invest the money or you spend it on 15 Lamborghinis in the driveway, the bottom line is if you have a right to earn that money and you have shown that there's a market for it, should something that you have to do to your body that you may feel could cause you death. And look, there has been instances where people have had health concerns with taking the vaccine. Should that be enough for you to keep your job, even in a private industry?
Well, first of all, I'm with Jeff on this one. As to 15, but I got to go around the world and I make 5. Cry me a damn river.
But you're avoiding.
Maybe we should have picked a different industry.
I'm going to get to the issue in a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to get to the issue, but cry me a damn river, okay? Because I'm not trying to hit at. And one of the things you said, Letty, is you have a right. Where does that right come from? You don't have a right to do that. You do not have a right to do that.
You don't have a right.
You don't have a right to work for that company in that country at that price. You don't have that right. Where's it come from?
We've seen court cases come down where, first of all, you got to remember the antitrust laws that apply to a lot of these sports leagues. And Priscilla, jump in if you choose. What you also have is that we have had court cases that where the private industry said, no, because of workplace conditions, we're not going to allow you to be able to enter our industry until you're at least 21 years old. NFL.
Yeah, but that's apples and oranges. Apples and oranges. Apples and oranges. As it relates,
it's a condition of work. It's still a condition of work.
So
in that regard, it's apples to apples. We're still talking about fruit in this because we're talking about conditions to work.
We are, but we are not talking about a right. You don't have a right to work for a particular employer. Now, let me give you some of
the courts have not said that, Dr. Metzler. See, I'm feeling pretty good. I got my law degree because I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. I'm actually arguing with somebody with a law degree. But hold on, let me make my argument. The courts have made the case. Jeff's like, this dude's going to get slapped down legally by a real attorney. Watch this. No, The courts have made the case that if that's the only market for you to earn a living and others have had that market, the market cannot deny you the opportunity to enter that market based on some made-up condition that's arbitrary, that does not apply to the whole marketplace. If you apply the age criteria with the NBA and the NFL, could you not make that case?
You can make that case, and you will be summarily laughed out of court. And here's why.
Okay.
Here's why. As a private employer, the jurisprudence is very clear that an employer can set his or her terms and conditions of employment. They cannot discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin. That much they cannot do. However, they can set the terms and conditions of employment. If any of these cases end up in court, the court's going to say, sorry, it's what we call a 12B6 motion. Failure to bring a claim on which relief can be granted. You don't have that right. Furthermore, here's what's going to happen. OSHA is going to issue a rule any day.
That would be a regulation, and
Yes.
that would take a lawsuit off the case, which, by the way, Jeff, still makes me smart, so don't start laughing at me.
No, Dr. Metzler said, wait, it was a 12 BC, whatever. That won the argument for me, because that just sounds really, really intelligent and deep. So him even just using that term means that he won this debate. Now, Lenny, if you had come out with some number or some you could have made it up, and then I would have said, okay, maybe it's even.
Priscilla, can you please chime in?
Yes,
on
yes.
the 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A-C5, the document.
There you go.
As a non-lawyer, but as the baby sister of a lawyer, I will say that I agree with Dr. Metzler when he said a while ago that the Democrats are going to lose this election, and it's going to be one of the reasons it's going to be what we're seeing right now, because when you have nurses, police officers, teachers who are being fired or being forced out because their entire state has this requirement.
Right.
Now you're putting them in a hardship. These individuals who were heroes a year ago and who are now being called all kinds of negative, nasty things, they're not going to forget come time to vote, because now you're taking away their retirement, their livelihood, their careers, the things that they love. So we can talk about what a private or federal business can do, because we are seeing that hospitals are not giving nurses and doctors a religious option. You know, United Airlines and some of these aviation companies are not giving people these exemptions. And so what are they going to do? Where can they go? You're telling them they have to start all over again. And a lot of them are not being given the option for pay while they're looking for another job, because Dr. Metzler, you can correct me, some people are not being offered unemployment as an option.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think the argument is not in the court of law. The argument's in the court of opinion. The argument is in the political sphere. That's where the argument is. Because when you have the nurses, all of the frontline people, the first responders, who now are being just cast away like, pigs, then at this point, then you have, we'll take different action. And so then you see the legislation start to change. It's a waste of time to have this argument in the court of law. It's just a complete waste of time to do that.
If I can, I want to stay in the realm of race and some politics and some sports. And I know it's not necessarily as political, but it's interesting because part of what 2020 was if you all remember the old the newsgate from Talladega with Bubba Wallace. Now, 1 year later, Bubba Wallace ends up winning down at Talladega. Now, granted, it was a shortened race, and I'm a Republican, but I can't say that I follow NASCAR all like that, even though Jeff does, because he lives in Texas, and you have to if you're going to stay in Texas. But with that said, you know, I am going to go to you, Jeff, less because I don't know if you follow NASCAR or not, and I don't care. NASCAR's cool, I guess, but more so, you know, here we are again talking about issues of race and class and this weird intersection, and we're moving through 2021. We're watching it, and we'll even tie in Kristen Sinema. You know, out of all the people to harass, the Democrats and the greater popular culture thinks it's okay to harass the bisexual woman from a purple state that has championed the issues of minorities, whether it's Latinos, because of 1040, I believe it was 1040 or 1070 in Arizona 10 years ago, or African Americans, or the LGBTQ. I'm saying the letters wrong, but you understand what community I'm talking about. The
alphabet. Yeah.
Yes, that community. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just said the letters wrong. With that said, she stood up for those communities, and now they're targeting her. And that seems, you know, it's coming in the shadow of Bubba Wallace winning and all this other stuff. What does this win, or just kind of where we've been over the last year, say about where we're trying to go when it comes to diversity in America? And I know it's symbolic, but maybe it's a door opening. Maybe.
Honestly, I don't really have a clue. I don't know. I mean, the things are so polarized that Bubba Wallace won, and somebody at Red State wrote about it and had a positive spin on it. And in the comments, they're like, "Oh, now I hate Bubba Wallace because of that whole thing that went down." They wanted him to be Jussie Smollett so bad that they were disappointed when it didn't turn out to be that way. Even though there were things that he did wrong in that process, he was not Jussie Smollett. Actually, neither side got what they wanted out of that whole thing. But when it comes to issues of diversity, I think that the left wins on these issues because a lot of people on the right don't really understand what the diversity issue is about. They really, and you can tell when they talk, especially their influencers, their commentators, they don't really know what diversity means, and they don't know what is meant by that. Even though the left does use that word in certain ways, doesn't mean that the word is necessarily bad. It's like the word equity. Equity doesn't always mean what the heart left says it means. It can also mean other things too, depending on how you define it. So this is yet another reason why we lose on issues of race and culture, because a lot of people on the right are ignorant about these things. So they will immediately assume if a company says, you know what, in our hiring practices, we notice that we've been favoring white people over people of color, so we want to change that. The right automatically means that they're going to decrease the quality of their product or service because they're going to put black people in there who don't know what the hell they're doing, because it couldn't be possible that they could just favor qualified black people to make sure they have more of an opportunity. They think that Pojo, Nuck, and Tyrone is going to walk in there with cornrows or an afro pick in his head, speaking of bonnet, and then they're just going to hire him just because he's black. Yeah, I'm saying it because a lot of conservatives, I just read your mind right now, because that is exactly what you're saying now.
Don't forget the do-rag.
And that's not true. So I think that, and I do think that, especially with the younger crowd on the right, they're starting to get some of these things. So I do see a positive trend. I think it's going to take a while, but I think that this is yet one of these issues where conservatives could actually shine, but they don't because of ignorance.
I think this is a great opportunity to leverage this win and talk about meritocracy. I mean, I think we can fuse these two conversations and say, you know, anybody can achieve anything if they put in hard work. And you're absolutely right about how the right has viewed diversity, and it's more than just traveling to another country or going to Africa and shooting some animals and coming back with a head, you know, like, and say, yeah, I've been to Africa. Like, we've got to be in the room. And I think that's the thing, that's the beauty of being diverse. You know, I was raised in a biracial, bicultural, bilingual home and raised by conservatives. You know, actually my mom didn't know she was a conservative till much more recently, but my father was a military man. And so traveling all over the world and actually seeing how people live from other countries and realizing that, hey, the way I think and the way I experience life isn't the only way, and it isn't necessarily the right way. And I think the more that we can have these broader conversations that go just beyond like policy and legislation and actually talk about the human experience, I think that's going to help our folks on our side too.
And just a couple of quick things. First of all, when we talk about this issue of diversity, let me just say, that in the United States of America, the first diversity certification program was developed at Cornell University, and I developed it. So let's start there. Okay, so let's just say that. That's first. Secondly, when we talk about, and I tell people all this all the time, when you talk about hiring qualified minorities, see, that really just gets on my nerves. I assume you don't hire knowingly unqualified people, period. So when you say to me, find me some qualified people, nobody's ever said, find me some qualified white people. What they've always said is find me some qualified women and people of color. That's the other thing. And to the issue of equity, with equity, the issue is not outcome, it's process. And folks just don't understand that. I can be very equitable when I'm putting together my process. It doesn't mean you're going to have the same outcome. That's impossible. It's illogical. So long as everyone has that access. And Priscilla, to what you said earlier, it's important that we are in the room and that we have a conversation. We can have the conversation. But I always talk with folks about, because I had this look, if you at the table and they don't have a chair, bring a folding chair. All that's nonsense. Here's my thing. When you're sitting at that table, what do you have to say? If you don't have anything to say, don't sit at the table. I don't care what you look like.
You ain't allowed to go. Look, I was at a dinner a couple of months ago, and I heard the expression, and I sure I'm going to make some people shudder. Long weekend Negroes.
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all familiar with that term?
Mm-hmm.
Never heard that term? So
I might be too young for that one.
Long weekend Negroes is the axiom for Black people in slavery. It's basically what it's saying is, those are the Black folks that wouldn't have been fighting for freedom in slavery. Those are the people that just would have been fighting for a longer weekend.
I've heard that.
That's what a long weekend Negro is. People that will sell out a certain ideology for the sake of getting a little bit of comfort. And that kind of goes back to Dr. Metzler's point. You can't be at the table looking for power and equity in the process to have access to at least do the best that you can. It's about a pursuit of happiness. It's not the attainment of happiness, because the pursuit does not automatically mean that you're going to be able to obtain happiness. But if you're not allowed to pursue the happiness, that's where the discrimination comes into play. Therein, if you're at the table and you're not going to allow people to at least put on some jogging shoes and start that pursuit, get your ass up from the table. You don't need to be there. That's basically what Dr. Metzler's saying. Or in the old axiom, Jeff, long weekend Negroes. And let's just be honest. There's a hell of a lot of long weekend Negroes in America today, which kind of puts Black America where we are right now. And I digress, and everybody can have a glass of wine on that one, because we all know I'm telling the truth. So, before we go, and I'm not going to call these folks long weekend Negroes, even though one of them.
What about short weekend Negroes?
One of them used to like doing a whole lot of stuff on a Friday and doing the little. So I don't know if y'all heard or not, but they announced that, it's not quite your teacher with the flask, Priscilla, but, they were doing something else that was making their eyes cross. I don't know if y'all heard or not, but Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem, they're going to do the halftime show at the Super Bowl coming up in February. They announced that. Yeah, Jeff, that's exactly what their face is going to look like. And it's going to go from like sunny skies to cloudy over the course of halftime. And we all know why. Priscilla, I don't know if you follow the Super Bowl or not. I don't know if you follow Dr. Dre or not, or any of them. But do you have any opinion as to how or why they picked them, or what your thoughts are? You even looking forward to this? They're saying this is going to be the best halftime show ever, which is blasphemous, by the way.
I do follow the music industry quite closely, and I do look forward to the halftime. I look forward to the anthem and the halftime show at every event. And this is quite an interesting and huge lineup. I'm trying to understand. Maybe it's a big kumbaya, we are the world, because of the personalities that they've selected. I think
whoa. Kumbaya, we are the world. I said Dr. Dre, NWA. You do know what the M stands for in NWA, right?
I'm looking at the diversity. I'm looking at
Gin and Juice and Eminem, who wrote songs like Stan and other type of violent songs about how much he hated his mother and his ex-wife. And you're talking about We Are the World.
Well, I'm just looking like on paper, right? When you look at all these different people in the industry.
And I named these people on paper.
Hey, but think of the people who are going to these events, like the people who can afford to go to, the Super Bowl. These are, people save up for this and they want a good time and they want a good show. And these are really I forget how many Grammys in the mix, and 22 number one Billboard hits. By the way, I want to brag because my husband has over 30 number one Billboard hits, which is why we follow music very closely. I'm totally looking forward to it. Now I anticipate like how many Illuminati signals we're going to see and references to demons and stuff are going to be in either or in the signals. Oh yeah, I went there. No, it's kind of like a thing when we watch like music shows, like what are we going to see as far as subliminal messaging? But I am totally looking forward to the show and respect the musicianship of all these artists.
And by the way, since you're the only person that knows music on here, I know that you will agree with me that the greatest halftime performance was in 2007 with a subliminal message that was put up during a guitar solo during Purple Rain.
Yeah. I can't beat Prince.
No, Prince would never do something that was subliminal. That was something that should not have been on television.
I don't think anything ripped off of any female's body parts by accident, and seeing private parts. Like, I want people to be clothed. Children aren't going to be.
Yeah. And we're going to have Eminem. So there's got to be, Jeff, there's got to be like some type of betting line on who's going to drop the first F-bomb between Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Eminem. So if you were setting the line, who would be the person with the over-under? First of all, who's going to drop it first and who's going to drop the most amounts?
Eminem on both. But what I'll say is this. I don't watch the Super Bowl. I'm not into football like that. I won't even know who's playing until the day of. But I will watch this halftime show because I think it's going to be awesome. It's going to bring me back to my younger days, and I'm going to love it. But I do have it on good authority from an anonymous source within the NFL that the reason why they chose this lineup is to trigger white conservatives and have them act stupid over it so that they make themselves look silly. So I'm going to be dealing with that. I know it's going to happen. I'm just saying it. All those black people on the stage, they're going to say, why are they so woke? The Super Bowl's so woke.
Oh, my.
Y'all got Paul McCartney a while ago. It's okay.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Hopefully that doesn't happen and I'm wrong and you guys can throw it in my face, but that's what's going to happen.
Dr. Metzler, how do you top that? And, how high will the people get on the upper deck once these three people get on stage?
Well, really, I only have one question. I know that Snoop's going to be there. My question is Martha Stewart going to be there?
Oh my God. That would be awesome. You could design the set.
Yeah, just want to know. That's my only question.
Wow. That would be, yeah. I mean, that would, yeah, I don't even know what to say to that, man.
That's my only question.
I'm done. I'm ending the show pretty much right now because you've stumped me. So there's the end of that. No admission on the best halftime show ever. Nobody. Priscilla, you're the one that knows the music the best. Can you? Hold on. Whoa. Let's get the novices out of here. you and I can agree that Prince had the best halftime show ever just based on musicianship. And Dr. Metzler left. He has no parts of this. So we can have an honest conversation as we're ending the show, right? We can agree on that. Just the musicianship and the artistry. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. We'll bring the novices back in. I don't know if Dr. Metzler, do you want to say goodbye to our audience, or do you just want to get up and just go away?
No. I'm here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I just had to talk to the professional, the person that actually knows, rather than asking people, hey, this takes me back to the music of my youth. You young people don't even know what music is.
Yeah, I would just say to Priscilla, Najee. That's all I would say.
Najee's coming to the house. My husband, I expect their walk through the door any minute. You guys know Najee, amazing saxophonist.
Yeah, we do. We look between you two know like 3/4 of the celebrity world, throwing it in our face. So you know what? Hold up. You all can say goodbye last. Jeff, for us novices that don't know anybody, us scrubs, what are you doing with the rest of your week?
I'll probably be watching Prince's halftime show on YouTube. No, I got my podcast, A Fresh Perspective. I'm starting to do interviews again. So I just did one yesterday about the Supreme Court and the gun rights case that's coming up. And yep, got a lot going on. So tune on in, A Fresh Perspective on YouTube and wherever you find your podcasts.
Priscilla, thank you for joining us. What do you got going on this week? Where can we follow you? What's the best thing to do? We're wrapping up the show. Tell us quickly.
So this weekend, I'm going to be going down to Colorado Springs to celebrate Hispanic History Month with our conservative Hispanics. And tomorrow night, I'm going to see Najee at the Soil Dub. We support local, not local, but like live music, and just helping the Colorado GOP with our candidates that are running for municipal and local offices and school board and city council. You can find me at PriscillaRahn.com.
Fantastic. Dr. Metzler, what fantastic thing that you do that nobody else in the world could possibly do?
Just continuing my work on economic development in the city of New York. In a couple of months, we'll have some very exciting news about how New York City is going to use economic development as a wealth building opportunity. Who we think will be the incoming mayor is very clear that economic development and a business environment and a crime-free environment is critical to New York City.
We need to talk more about that next time we're here. Look, thank you for joining us, ma'am, this week. Jeff Charles, thank you as always. Dr. Metzler, thank you as well. And thank you all for watching us out there once again here on Red and Black. Make sure you spread the word. Make sure that you're joining in the conversation. Thank you for all of you that joined in the chat. Spread the word. Tweet us out. Spread the word on Facebook. Enjoy your weekends and throughout your week. Know that we love you. Know that we're working to make a better America come about, and that we're looking forward to continuing to bond with you each and every week. In the meanwhile, I will talk to you soon, and so will these folks. TCNGB, take care and God bless. Peace.